Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Dr. Bill Boyd from Edge Park United Methodist Church. Bill, welcome. Appreciate you coming out. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Gracious and loving God, we give you thanks. For your presence among us is the glue of our community. We're thankful for this season which reminds us that you do flow among us and bring us together. We pray that you would bless these, your public servants, as they work to continue to secure security for all of us, goodwill, and opportunities for growth. And we pray that you would make your will known in all that we decide and do this day. For it's in your holy name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the court. We have three announcements relating to the agenda this morning. The first one deals with the Administrator's Office, item 8A1. There's a revised court communication. We made a slight change. We had an error in a date on that document, so we've corrected that. We'll cover that when we get to that particular section. Also, members of the court, under purchasing, item 8K1. This is the sale of recycled paper. As always, we open those bids on Mondays, so you have a revised court communication in your red folders that indicate the prices that we received on that paper. And then finally, members of the court, it's my understanding that we will not need to go into closed session today. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of April the 22nd.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a resolution today for the National Day of Prayer, and I believe Vicki Phillips is here. Would ask you to come forward at this time. There you go. And I will read the resolution into the record. Whereas the National Day of Prayer has great significance for us as a nation, as it enables us to recall and teach the important role that prayer played in the lives of our founding fathers as they sought the wisdom of God when forming this nation and when making a decision that would affect our nation and the lives of the people. And whereas in 1952, both houses of Congress unanimously passed a joint resolution signed by President Harry Truman establishing an official day of prayer. And whereas Congress permanently designated the first Thursday in May as the annual National Day of Prayer, and the law was signed by President Ronald Reagan in 1988. And whereas in April 2011, the U.S. Court of Appeals 7th Circuit upheld the 1952 Congressional Act proclaiming the annual National Day of Prayer to be observed in our nation. And whereas the theme for the 63rd Annual National Day of Prayer is One Voice United in Prayer, and the theme scripture is Romans 15:6, so that with one mind and one voice you may glorify the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. And whereas the National Day of Prayer remains set aside as a call for us to come together beyond religious, denominational, and social boundaries as one nation in prayer, with one voice, humble ourselves, seek his face, and turn from our own ways, and then to be promised in 2 Chronicles 7:14, he will hear from heaven and heal our land. And whereas President Grover Cleveland stated in his inaugural address on March the 4th, 1885, and let us not trust to human effort alone, but humbly acknowledge the power and goodness of the Almighty God, who presides over the destiny of nations, and who has at all times been revealed in our country's history. Let us invoke his aid and his blessing upon our labors. I know there is a supreme being who rules the affairs of men. And whereas we ask God to watch over our nation, give us his favor and blessings to protect our people, our liberties, and those who serve us at home and abroad, as well as families of those serving us, and may the outpouring of prayer produce continued blessings, prosperity, and wisdom for our leaders on our land and its citizens, and secure the future for generations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioner Court of Tarrant County, do hereby recognize Thursday, May the 1st, 2014, as the 63rd Annual National Day of Prayer in Tarrant County. In witness whereof, we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 29th day of April, 2014, and I'll move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We're going to get one more here.
Judge Whitley and Commissioners, it's a pleasure to be with you once again. This is my 20th year to serve National Day of Prayer in Tarrant County, and it's such a blessing to come before your court each year, and I just appreciate this honor. And I want to say, when I was praying over, I pray over you guys on a regular basis, and when I was praying over y'all, something came into my heart, a memory of when I went to Washington, D.C. during inauguration quite a few years ago, and I was standing on the lawn in front of the Capitol, and all of a sudden this joy just rose up into my heart, and the Lord said to me, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. And I think that the people of Tarrant County are so blessed to have commissioners that are willing, to speak the word of God, to, be concerned over their constituents and pray and recognize something like National Day of Prayer. And we just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
Board members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, we have two additional items to bring to you this morning. The first concerns requesting the Commissioners Court to approve the North Central Texas Public Works Mutual Aid Agreement. This is an item that you received a briefing on several weeks ago from Ms. Hunter, our Emergency Management Coordinator. We're seeking your approval.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 2, we're requesting that the court consider and approve an exception to the county's travel policy as it relates to Judge Mike Mitchell. As you know, Judge Mitchell will not be running for office next year, and our policy says that if a person is in their final year of the current term and then chooses not to run or will not be a candidate for the next year, that any type of travel, educational travel, has to be approved by the Commissioners Court. Judge Mitchell is requesting that we approve an expenditure of $60 for him to attend the Texas College for Judicial Studies, which is going to be in Austin, and this is something that he will need to complete his term here.
Move for approval. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Tidwell? Morning.
Morning.
We have the one item for you to consider this morning, and that is to receive and file the Tarrant County financial statements for the period ended March 2014.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Glenn?
Move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second to receive and file personnel agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, and good morning. We have one additional item. The second item, we're asking the court to approve the out-of-class pay extension for an employee in JP 1. As indicated in your court communique, this employee began receiving out-of-class pay back in February of this year. Per our policy, after a 90-day period, if additional out-of-class pay is required, then the department has to request that extension from the court. So Judge Swearingen has asked for an extension through the end of July. We're estimating the cost to be a little bit more than $2,600 to the general fund, but as also noted in your court communique, this cost will be offset by salary savings due to the vacancy.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
How are my people?
They were okay. Didn't see a single Razorback.
You didn't buy a hog's head.
Didn't buy a hog's head.
We have one item for your consideration this morning. It's a bid award recommendation for bid 2014-097, the sale of recycled paper. Recommendation would be awarded to this high bidder, Corrugated Service, who are buying our cardboard for $107 a ton.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Riley.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're requesting the approval of an order to close, abandon, and vacate a portion of Old Cranberry Road consisting of 27,528 square feet of land to facilitate the opening of Chisholm Trail Parkway.
Well, I'll move approval. I'll second it. Any discussion? We had this on the agenda last week. We were concerned that it required the unanimous of all five of us, and so that's why we kind of held off until everybody was here. So, any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
Yes, Your Honor, with the city of Fort Worth for the reconstruction of Rendon Road from Little Road to Retta Mansfield Road. Item 901A and B, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson.
I have an interlocal with the city of Saginaw. Item 8.2A and B, I move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. One other thing that I know that we as a court, when we get into the legislative season, we have resolutions that we pass, that is in support of certain legislation as we go through the process. We've got the upcoming constitutional amendment in November. Have we passed a resolution of support on that?
No, not yet.
And if not, then can we go ahead and get that on the agenda to pass? Sure. Thank you. Are there any appointments? There being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have three items to bring to the court this morning. The first one concerns an update on the Chisholm Trail Parkway. Chairman Barr is here to initiate the conversation. Chairman Barr.
Good morning.
Good morning, Judge, members of the court. We are very pleased to be here today to give you an update on the Chisholm Trail Parkway and our plans for opening the roadway. Frankly, it's exciting. You can see it on the ground, and the opening is imminent. I know as you drive the West Freeway in Fort Worth, you may think, gosh, there's a lot of work to be done here, but our staff tells me that we're near the opening days, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. After nearly 50 years in the making, and some of us feel like we worked on it that long. I'm pleased to advise you that Ntta plans to open the Chisholm Trail Parkway, all 27.6 miles of it, on May the 11th. May the 11th, subject to weather, and we hope you'll pray with us that we don't have a whole lot of rain next week.
Vicki, you might want to put that on your list.
Seemed appropriate to say that this morning. The entire length of the road from just southwest of downtown Fort Worth all the way down to Cleburne, the main lanes are going to open at one time. We're going to give you a little more detail about that here in just a moment. I do want to acknowledge that here with me this morning are several people that have been important in this process, none the least of which is Moji Haddad, who serves as one of Tarrant County's representatives on the Ntta board. Moji's been there a little more than a year. He's proven to be a valuable member of the board, and I commend the court for having appointed him.
Moji, thank you for being here today. We appreciate that.
I might add that Moji is from Precinct 2.
Good choice, Commissioner. Also here is Jerry Kerrigan, NTTA's Executive Director, who has been a player on this road for a long time now. And with us also is Brian Barth, the TxDOT engineer, district engineer, who's TxDOT. Brian and his team have played a major role in this and actually have constructed the intersection at I-20 and 183 and the new Chisholm Trail, and that is a major construction project, and they've managed and funded and led that effort. Also here is Elizabeth Bow, who's our Assistant Executive Director for Project Delivery, and Elizabeth's going to talk to you in a little more detail about the road in a minute, as well as Carrie Rogers, who I believe the court members know. Carrie works with everyone at the local level on behalf of NTTA. And I also want to introduce and thank Adelaide Levins, who is here. Adelaide had volunteered, good for us she did, to lead the community efforts that celebrate the opening of this roadway. And she was telling me a while ago we're about to run out of ability to have runners and bikers and people for the opening celebrations. There's so many people that have signed up. They've actually increased the number of people that can participate because there were a lot of very unhappy people. So that event
we can't run in it anymore?
Do what?
I said, all shucks. You mean we can't run in it anymore?
Judge, we'll always make a place for you.
Please don't.
As you know, this project marks NTTA's first entry into the western side of the Metroplex. We greatly appreciate the enthusiasm and the warm welcome that the Chisholm Trail project has received in Tarrant County and all along the corridor. NTTA has made more than 50 speaking engagements in Tarrant and Johnson counties in the past 6 months, trying to help people understand how the road's going to function and how it's going to impact the community. This road's going to be a great driving experience. I think it's going to be one of the most attractive roads, certainly in North Texas, and I think residents will benefit from what NTTA has to offer, and that's driving choices, options, a cleaner, easier drive, faster, and a safer road. Going back to NTTA's origins as the Texas Turnpike Authority, which constructed the turnpike between downtown Dallas and downtown Fort Worth more than 50 years ago, NTTA has been delivering tolled transportation options for the region. We've worked hard to be a community and transportation partner for just as long, for that full 50 years, and we look forward to continuing that commitment and partnership with you into the future. Our first priority is to open the Chisholm Trail Parkway to traffic and get people moving. The folks in Fort Worth, Tarrant County, and all the communities along the corridor have shown great patience during the construction. This is a big project, and there are a lot of details involved in completing it. Initially, the main lanes were open for the entire length of the project. However, there will be work to be completed after opening day. So we're not holding up opening the main lanes while we complete some of the direct connectors at I-30 and I-20. Elizabeth will give you more details on this in a minute. But we're anxious to get the road into revenue service and for the public to enjoy the benefits it will bring. Aside from road construction, we will complete the corridor design aesthetics, including implementing the custom-designed amenities on the northern 8 miles. And these include special railings, lightings, bridge design, a lot of landscaping, and some public art and monuments. These aesthetics will be staged during the coming year. They will be done. The contracts have been let, and so that will move forward as the project is wrapped up. As most of you know, this project is only happening because of what can only be called exceptional collaboration. To get this massive regional project completed, it has taken the coordination and execution of multiple project partners, none the least of which, as I said, is TxDOT, the RTC, the Tarrant County, Johnson County, and the cities of Fort Worth and Burleson and Cleburne, and the Union Pacific Railroad and the Fort Worth and Western Railroad. We're thankful for our talented staff and partners and the innovation and hard work that's gone into this project. We're confident you'll enjoy driving this roadway. It's going to make an enormous difference throughout southwest Fort Worth and southwest Tarrant County, and the trip now down to Cleburne, a trip that many people make every day. That trip is going to avoid approximately 30 signal lights. And in closing, one, I guess, shameless plug, and that is that before you get on the toll road, get a toll tag. You can go online to www.ntta.org and sign up. It's an easy process, and it's the cheapest, least expensive way to drive the road. Lastly, for those of us who bleed purple, in May we're going to have a TCU toll tag through a joint marketing program with TCU and Ntta, and we're excited about that. Once that was announced, some other universities in the area thought they needed it as well, so it looks like that's going to be a new trend. I'll now turn our presentation over to the person who has led NTTA's effort to deliver this project, our Assistant Executive Director for Project Delivery, Elizabeth Mao, who will be discussing the opening and the road in more detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
Elizabeth.
Good morning. Just down. Well, the chairman just gave my presentation, so this is going to go really quick. But I do always enjoy coming over to Fort Worth to talk about the Chisholm Trail Parkway. Your community has accepted us in what has been 4 years of tough construction that has really impacted all of you, and you've accepted us and you've really welcomed us as your new neighbors, and I appreciate that personally. Our staff, our contractors, everybody does, and I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank you for inviting us here today. I'm excited to talk to you about a project opening compared to what I'm usually talking to you about is construction and construction issues and a project in the making. So it's nice to be in front of you to talk about a project opening. As the chairman mentioned, this has been a project in the making for many, many years, and hundreds, even thousands of people have now worked on this. From the original having the foresight to put this project on the mobility plan in the 50s and 60s to the people, the small businesses, large, small minority contractors that are getting a chance to help deliver this regionally significant project. So the numbers, I can't even imagine, are in the thousands who have helped make this project a reality. And we're the lucky ones that get to be in front of you today telling you that it's ready and we're about to open it to traffic. As the chairman mentioned, this is our first project in Johnson and Tarrant County, and it stretches from IH-30 all the way down to US 67 and Cleburne. It's about 27.6 miles, and it has a hefty price tag of $1.4 billion, the largest project NTTA has done to date. And we do plan to open to traffic in phases, starting with the main lanes, on May 11th. I know you find that hard to believe, Judge, but I'm going to tell you how we're going to do it.
Are we going to
We're
fall
not,
off the ramps?
no
there
one's
at
going to fall off the ramps at 30, I promise you. But there you go. So we
You could
are.
do a little temporary, you could do temporary exits down to Forest Park and just we could turn Forest Park into.
Don't think that's what we envisioned. But let me tell you, I do want to spend a few minutes.
It would not be a dive. It could be a dive south of 30, and it could be on steroids north of 30. To bring
We'll
you
see
into
what we can
downtown.
do with that.
I know you're.
You don't need to stir that pot anymore.
I've already a couple of times.
When, I don't know why that's not coming up, but there's supposed to be a list on here. When we do open to traffic, when the project is complete, you'll be able to access the Chisholm Trail Parkway. There is 20 ramp locations starting at 30 all the way down to US 67 that you'll be able to get on and off the toll road, making travel between Fort Worth and Cleveland and all points in between a breeze. As I mentioned before, like all of our projects, we will open this project in phases. Safety and mobility are our number one priority when it comes to opening this project, and as soon as we can safely open, we will do so. We do anticipate that the main lanes, starting at 30 all the way down to 67, will open on May 11th. What that means is that the direct connector is, and I don't pretend to think that you can see this. It's for purposes of the presentation. But what it means is the direct connectors at 30, so if you're going to or from 30 to the Chisholm Trail Parkway, will not be open on this first day. They will be phased in over the next 6 months. But there is many locations, alternative access to the Chisholm Trail Parkway. They're working with the city through Summit, 8th, down to University, Forest Park, Montgomery, several locations you will actually use to get onto the tollway. We're working with the city for clear, safe, concise signage so motorists know where to go. This is a very tight corridor anyway. This is not the perfect situation, but we do not want to hold up 28 miles of mobility for some direct connect ramps. We do think this is the best path forward. So again, we do anticipate that these direct connectors, the one you see, the only ones you really see from 30, the ones that are cantilevering over the roadway, we anticipate that'll be complete in the September timeframe of this year. Moving south, to orient you, this is the 18320 interchange. TxDOT in close collaboration and coordination with TxDOT. All these ramps shown, everything in green will be open on May 11th, and which includes the direct connect ramp from northbound Chisholm Trail to eastbound 20. The frontage road systems will be open. Arbor Lawn will be open. I will tell you, these connections are going to greatly improve the access in and around this very unique interchange. So again, we're working with the city and TxDOT on making sure accurate, very concise, visible signage for the motorists in advance so they know how they can safely maneuver from one facility to another. And again, we do anticipate that the remaining direct connect ramps that will be built will be done between now and September. I say that it's not in September that everything's going to be done. We're going to bring things online as they're safely ready to be opened. But we do anticipate that it'll be completely open in September. As you all, I assume, are aware that a corridor master plan was approved for this road back in 2005 between, the city, Ntta, and TxDOT. And this corridor master plan outlined the corridor's design aesthetics, or how it would look from 30 down to approximately Alta Mesa. And those plan elements were composed and founded on the basis and the principles of the work done by the Citizens Advisory Group. I'm sure you all have heard we called it the CAG, but these were local folks that got involved took an interest in this road and took it to be their own, to come up with a plan of what this road could be. And these elements are designed to give the project a true Parkway feel, as the chairman mentioned, including the geometry of the road with reduced speeds, structural aesthetic elements, monuments, public art, landscaping. The list goes on and on and on. I will say there's more than 47 total acres of landscaping in that 8.5-mile section. So it's definitely a different facility. We are coordinating with the city, and the public art is slated to start going in May. So we're excited to see how that goes. And with the finished product, it's tough for an engineer to understand what mosaic tiles look like on a roadway, but we're very excited to.
I think it's hard for an engineer. What about an accountant?
It's going to be amazing. So we're going to start to see that go in here very soon. Plantings, all the landscaping will start to go in. Some have gone in now, but we do anticipate the fall planting season, as all of us do in our own home, to make sure these plants survive. But the irrigation is placed, the trees are tagged, we're ready, we just got to get them in the ground. I've told you this, I'm out speaking on Chisholm a lot, all of our staff is, and I've told you all this before, but it's worth repeating to set expectations. When this project opens, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be functional, it's going to be safe, and it's going to be ready to use, but it's not going to be pretty. When we complete the project, when we're ready and everything is in place, it's going to be spectacular. So please bear with us. Let us get it functionally open, safe, get people traveling, and then we'll polish it at the end and make it the project, full 28 miles, that all of us can be proud of.
Elizabeth, question.
Yes, sir.
Are these reduced speeds the permanent speed limits for those segments?
Yes. Yes, sir. Now, I will tell you, we set interim speed limits, I'm sure similar to what you all do on your county roads, because we will do speed studies to make sure that the design is in line with what the speeds actually are, which the road was designed that way. We do not anticipate that those would change. But there is an interlocal agreement with the city that sets these speed limits.
Will the city be the one that polices them?
No, the Ntta and DPS will police the tollway. Let's talk a little bit more. When the Chisholm Trail Parkway opens to traffic, the motorists will be charged the same rate that is charged on the entire Ntta system, an average rate of 16.2 cents a mile, except for the northern 8.5 miles, what I just spoke to you about. In return for all those amenities, the geometry changes that reduces the speed, there is a 4 cents additional charge per mile on that northern 8 section. So the rest of the facility is consistent with the Ntta system, but the northern will have that 4 cents
So that would
added.
be the Edwards Ranch section and the main lane gantry 3?
No, just the Edward Ranch section.
Edward
Yep.
Ranch.
And these are just an example of our full toll rate schedule can be found online, ntta.org.
Why is the main lane gantry 3 toll rate so much higher than the rest of the facility?
I don't know that it's so much higher than the rest. These were we just picked a few. If you go to the other main lane gantries, they are consistent with this toll rate.
I think, though, the question I may be wrong, but is this the total toll from 30 to Cleburne?
No, sir. That is the toll to pass under that
Those
location.
particular locations?
Yes.
What's the total toll from 30 to?
A little over $5, I believe, is the approximate. I can do that calculation when I sit down.
And the differences are based upon the distance between the last gantry and the next gantry?
Ntta uses a influence-based tolling method. It is not point-to-point. It is not a straight mile. You pick up a ticket at the beginning, and you give it when you end. So it's not an exact. It is an average. Is the easiest way for me to explain that to you. So we break it up into zones, if you will, and the main lane gantries are placed about in the middle of a zone. So That's where, there's 3 of them on this, and they're approximately the same length, if you will, of zones, so that's why the rate will be similar. It's done consistently. This is the way our entire system is. It is I believe, the only way it's done in Texas. I don't believe that there's any point-to-point tolling in Texas, but so this is a common practice, but it is truly an average. The easiest way for me to tell you is not an exact 16.2 cents per mile. It is not an exact multiply times 4, and then you get a number. Please check our toll rates. I think the best way is to go online, look at the map, see where you're going. We have every toll rate at every location consistent with the rest of our system.
This also points out the difference in the reason to get that toll tag.
Absolutely.
And that zip cash, again, I'm sure everybody is aware of this, you don't stop anywhere.
Right.
You're going to get a bill
Right,
in the mail that you get to send back or pay. So you're a whole lot better off to go with the toll tag than to pay the extra amount for the zip tag.
As the chairman mentioned, get a toll tag, get a toll tag. It's 50% more. We will take a picture of your license plate. There is no toll booth. You're traveling through. We're taking a picture of your license plate, and we're sending you a bill. It is more expensive. The benefits just completely outweigh it. We have started a new $20 starter toll tag. Our base product is $40. We heard from people, I don't drive it that much, so we're having some new offerings, including a $20 starter toll tag. So we encourage everyone, get the benefits of a toll tag. It can be used at DFW Airport.
That's about 1 day worth of parking it.
DFW, and then Love Field as well. And it is good on any toll road in Texas. So the benefits of a toll tag, as the chairman mentioned, we greatly.
Do you have any deals with other states?
We do, and working on several as well. Let's see, Oklahoma, talking to Kansas, Louisiana's in the works. So, and of course, we're looking at the national, seeing what the national we call it interoperability. So, always looking for how we can, merge our product with others. I appreciate everyone's patience in the past 3.5, almost 4 years, that we've been in your backyard, causing havoc and construction, and as we begin to phase open these major elements, we know that there's going to continue to be heavy coordination. We know we're committed to continuing our outreach and our communication that we've done thus far, but I would like to remind everyone that this is still a construction zone. Be diligent, watch for signs, traffic switches, speed limits. We are opening, but there is still construction zones in this area, so but we're committed to continuing our communication with you on what exactly those are. You guys see these pictures. It's just amazing how this project has come to life over the years, and just how huge it is, and how many people, large contractors, small minority contractors, everybody has had a part in this project to make it a success. I do want to recognize all of our partners. As the chairman mentioned, it's the hard work and diligence of everybody to get this done. It's not just been the NTTA, it's been everyone that's coordinated to get this massive and much needed regional project open to traffic. So that being said, when you have a project of this size and that you've been waiting for so long, you can imagine that everybody wants to celebrate. So there's a lot of events going on in the weeks to come. We'd like to highlight a couple for you. The first is the NTTA's VIP project celebration. And it will be held on the county line down off of 1187, and it'll start with a joint chamber breakfast and then a VIP celebration. We have several surprises in store, so I hope all of you can join us down there on Friday, May 9th, that morning. But I will say the crescendo of this whole project is something I'd like to ask Adelaide to come up and talk about. She has graciously, I don't know if volunteer is the word.
She's a
I don't know what I call it, but she is chairing our community event, the big bike and run event, and I really would like her to talk some specifics about that right now.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm a shining example of be careful what you ask for. it was my dream always to have a run on it. I know it was Chairman Barr's dream to have a ride on it, and I think I just bugged Elizabeth one time too many and got asked to be in this position. So it has been a fast and furious 6 months of planning on this. But on May 10th, it is time to celebrate. We will have 3,000 runners, 2,000 cyclists, all that are going to be the first to enjoy a 50-year planning effort, a 3.5-year construction effort to experience the Chisholm Trail Parkway. Elizabeth and the chairman have talked about the collaborative effort, and that has followed through in our planning for these events as well. 4 cities, Fort Worth, Burleson, Joshua, and Cleburne, have participated. 3 agencies, Ntta, TxDOT, and COG, and then 2 counties, Tarrant and Johnson County, have all given manpower, staff power, enthusiasm, and excitement to help bring these events together. The Planning Committee has expanded from 20 to 40 just because people want to be involved. Most of the events will be staged out of the Edwards Ranch area. We will have 750 half marathoners being bused down to Johnson County so that, again, we can celebrate the collaborative effort, running a point-to-point 13.1-mile distance from FM 1902 to the Edwards Ranch exit. 2,000 5K runners and walkers will start at the Edwards Ranch, cross over the Trinity River, take the Arbor Lawn exit, turn around, and then come back. 2,000 cyclists will really get the best view of what the roadway has to offer. All starting out at Edwards Ranch, we will have 12-mile, 33-mile, and 48-mile rides, taking them from the core of an urban environment in Fort Worth to the beautiful green pastures of Cleburne and beyond. And then lastly, 100 little kiddos and their parents will cover a mile on the Chisholm Trail Parkway, all making memories that will hopefully last a lifetime. Now, as I talked about, we are crossing county lines, and I do want to thank Tarrant County and Johnson County for both committing their sheriff's posses to be at that county line, to welcoming the runners and cyclists into their county, out of our county, vice versa. So it will be quite a little feat right there at the county line. And then lastly, our events were overwhelmingly voted on to benefit CASA of Tarrant County and CASA of Johnson County, the court-appointed special advocates. It is expected that a very, very high percentage of the $103,000 in underwriting from Chisholm Trail Parkway contractors will be allocated to these 2 organizations. So that is just a tremendous boost, augmented by in-kind contributions from counties, municipalities, TxDOT, and Ntta. So it has just been a wonderful, generous effort. Unlike in my past life, I haven't had to beg, borrow, and steal. The generosity has just been coming forth. I would like to thank Commissioner Brooks for his participation on the committee, Tom Stallings as Judge Whitley's appointee, Chairman Barr, Brian Barr, Elizabeth Mao, and Carrie Rogers for all of their support during this short, condensed, but very invigorating process. And as everybody knows, the events are all about the T-shirts, so I did want to share with you what they look like. Our 5K and cyclists will receive this wonderful gold with the logo on it. Our approximately 500 volunteers for the event will be in this sapphire blue. Our half marathoners will receive a dry weave shirt similar to this. And then, even though as a runner myself, I did not realize, though, it is all about the bling, and all the cyclists, most of the cyclists, the half marathoners and 5Ks will all receive a medal to be around their neck as they cross the finish line. You have to cross the finish line first. So,
no, that rules me out.
Sorry, Judge.
Where you get to start at, Judge?
I did not hear that. Anyway, 11 days and counting. I hope to see all of y'all out there, and thank you again for your support on it.
Thank you, Adelaide, for your leadership on
My
this
pleasure,
project.
Brooks.
Just a few more updates, I did want to let you all know, the chairman mentioned TCU toll tag. We're very excited about this, so all you Horned Frogs that want to show your commitment, get your toll tags coming in May. And the big announcement is we are now ready to open our new Chisholm Trail Parkway storefront on Overton Ridge next to Kincaid's. That's what, so
And
it'll be,
edible arrangements, apparently.
yeah, I know, I just think of Kincaid. So we're going to be opening that at the beginning of May and plan some events around that, and it's great access, very convenient off the tollway for your folks to come and service their toll tags, their accounts, whatever they need for these citizens here. So with that, we are happy to answer any questions you have of us.
I'm sure Ron Wright would like to give a commercial for toll tags at his tax offices, one in the Southwest Courthouse.
We appreciate everything. We appreciate all y'all's work. Ken, Moji, we appreciate very much y'all's service on NTTA and everything you do for Tarrant County and Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
Members of the court, our second briefing concerns the Tarrant County burial program. Ms. Almaderis is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning. My presentation is not as exciting as their presentation. In fact, it's pretty sorry, but I'm here today to ask you to consider some major changes in our burial program, because we are spending a whole lot of money and we're going to be spending a whole lot more unless we make some changes. As you know, Texas counties are mandated by the state to provide for the disposition of the remains of those decedents who die in their county and who lack the resources to cover the cost of their burial. This is what is known as a pauper's burial. A person just does not have the resources to pay for their burial. Currently, Tarrant County offers both full-body burials and cremations. They are handled through either the Human Services Office or the ME's office. The ME gets any deaths that appear suspicious and any abandoned or unclaimed bodies. Human Services gets calls from family members, nursing homes, hospitals with abandoned babies, and you wouldn't believe the number of abandoned babies that we have in Tarrant County. We work with 40 funeral homes, 12 crematories, and 3 cemeteries. All are located in Tarrant County. Veterans are buried at the DFW National Cemetery. Families, as of right now, get to decide if they want a cremation or a full-body burial. Our burials are very simple. The body is placed in a particle board coffin. There is no viewing. There's no embalmment. The cemetery provides a gravesite service, and family members, friends can attend. The Star Telegram provides a small complimentary notice. And as Commissioner Wynn knows, we don't have any markers. You've been through that. For cremations...
Didn't we used to have markers?
No, sir.
We've never had markers?
We've never had markers. They're very expensive. When we looked into them, we could not use just a simple marker. We had to purchase a bronze marker because that's what our cemeteries use at a cost of $800 to $1,000, and that was their cost.
But the funeral home does keep track.
Yes, sir. The coffins are marked with a number. The cemetery has that number, so if a family member or friend is trying to locate the grave, they need to go to the cemetery office, and they're given the number and the location. So they are marked. They're just not marked outside. For cremations, the remains are sealed in a plastic container. Then they're placed in a regular cardboard box. The remains are returned to the family if the family wants them, or if there's not a family or the family doesn't want them, we keep them. We store them in our office, and after we have about 20 remains, we take them to a cemetery, and they're buried in a grave.
families can have a memorial service if they should want. The county pays between $1,400 and $1,600 for a full body burial and $495 for a cremation. If the bodies are oversized, meaning over 400 pounds, and we have several of those, we pay more. In Tarrant County, a simple funeral like the kind we provide will cost a family between $4,000 and $5,000. And a cremation will cost between $900 and $1,000. That's why people will come to us, because instead of paying out $4,000, they get the same thing for the county and they don't pay anything. The taxpayers pay it. Y'all have any questions so far?
How do we determine whether the county pays for it or they should pay for it?
Our hands are tied on that, and in a few minutes, I'm going to explain that.
Okay.
Okay. From 2003, from fiscal year 2003 to fiscal year 2013, which has been 10 years, our costs have gone up from $201,000 to $466,000. For the first 5 months of this fiscal year, we've already spent almost $2,280,000 in burial costs. We're seeing an increase of about 14, 15 burials every month. And if this trend continues, we're going to be spending $604,000 for this year. Last year, we spent $466,000. But here is the situation. Our funeral directors and cemetery directors have already told us that what we're paying does not cover their costs, and they're looking at increasing their costs. They're proposing a $500 increase to the funeral homes, a $200 increase to the cemetery payments, and a $350 increase to cremation payments. So if that happens and the number of services remain the same, we're looking at $750,000 per fiscal year. Okay, who qualifies for burial assistance? The decedent must be a, wait a minute, I missed something. Okay, the decedent must be a resident of Tarrant County at the time of death, or the decedent may be a resident of another county, but they died in Tarrant County, and the decedent must lack the resources to cover the cost of a burial or cremation. How do we compare to the other counties? Well, look at Dallas County. They pay $56,500 last fiscal year. They had 181 services, and their average cost was $312. Why are they so low and we're so high? They donate the bodies to the medical school. So the medical school gets the body, and if the body is not appropriate for the medical school, then Dallas pays the medical school $300 to have them cremated. And then if the body is appropriate, then they use the body for research, and when they finish, the ashes are then spread at a memorial garden. The families do not get the ashes back. Bear County, you see their cost, $328,000. They use one cemetery and one funeral home, and they put 3 people to a grave. Harris County pays more than we do, $535,000, but they also had more services than we did. They had 711 services, average cost of $752. They own their own cemetery. They provide both burials and cremations. Travis County, actually their average cost is a little bit higher than us. but they only had 167 services, and they paid $145,000. They also own their own cemetery. They have been doing burials, but they have just been approved to do both cremation and burials.
Question.
Yes, sir.
How do we determine whether or not the decedent has the resources? Or
That's
lack
where
of
I'm going to
resources?
get at after this next slide. Okay. And actually, I'm going to get it to this slide. So what does the Texas law say? What does Texas law state? They state that all unidentified paupers must be buried. Last year, we only had one unidentified pauper. They state that all others, the Commissioner Court, you guys, you have the discretion to determine how to dispose of the remains. The disposition must be made by burial, cremation, or donation to a medical school. Now, here's the cruncher. This is where we get hurt. How do you determine what you both asked me? All that happens is a family member calls and says, we don't have the resources to bury my brother. We cannot ask the family members, even if they're making $150,000 a year, we cannot ask them to pay for the cost. We only know that the decedent died, had no money in his pockets. We cannot ask any other questions. Her Attorney General's opinion. Later on, if we find that they have property, we cannot seize their property to pay for their burials. Now, that may change a little bit, but I don't think it's going to have an impact in our program.
So we can ask no questions about the individual.
Family.
No,
The only
I
thing.
didn't say about the family. I wasn't going to say that. We can ask no questions about the individual's status at the time of their death.
We can ask if they had any resources, if they had any
Can we investigate
insurance, and if they had a prepaid.
Can we investigate that?
No, sir, we don't investigate.
I didn't ask if we did. I asked, could we?
Tommy? Tommy is our coordinator of the burial program.
Good morning. In the past, we have not been able to investigate because we have not had the personnel. The initial contact, when it's a burial or a cremation, is with the funeral directors, and we've been depending on the funeral directors to make those initial observations and contacts with the family and to find out whether or not they have the resources, if there's any life insurance, prepaid burial policies, if they were veterans, and if they have benefits through the National Cemetery.
Is there any problem with the county saying that we will only provide? We'll take care of the body, but it will only be through cremation.
That is our next step. You're ahead of me. My question is, what can Tarrant County do? Well, we can continue what we're doing and expect to pay more, or we can contract with the Southwestern Medical School like Dallas does, and Collin County and Denton County have started doing that too. Or we can offer cremations with a few exceptions. The exceptions would be, and the cremations is something that has been suggested by our advisory board. The exceptions would be the following: all unidentified paupers, because that's required by law, all oversized bodies.
Wait a minute. Miss, you cannot cremate an unidentified pauper?
No, sir.
It says we have to bury them?
Yes, sir.
Can we cremate them and bury the box?
I think we cannot do that.
We're doing that now. You're getting 20 boxes and.
Yeah, but they're identified.
But they're identified. But we don't have very many identified paupers. Last year, we only had one. So it's not a big deal.
Okay.
And I guess that happens in case they ever get identified. You know, we know what happened. We cannot cremate oversized bodies that are over 801 pounds because the crematory cannot handle them. We will bury our veterans because all we would pay would be the $695 to have the body prepared at a funeral home, and then the DFW cemetery buries them at no cost to them or to the county. We're considering not cremating homicide victims, and those bodies at people at the request of the district attorneys or the medical examiner's office. Last year, we only had one request. And then, if someone has a provable cultural or religious prohibition, we will consider burial. It has to be a prohibition. It cannot be a preference, and we would have to have verifiable prohibition. And right now, the only two groups that we're aware of are Muslims and Jewish people, and usually their people take care of them. They don't come to us. Now, let me talk a little bit more about cremations. In 2010, the cremation rate was over 40% in the United States. The cremation rate is expected to increase to 58% by 2025. In Tarrant County burial program, we have seen an increased number of requests for cremations from 23% in fiscal year 2001 to 45% in fiscal year 2013. And for the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we're looking at a 46% burial rate. Cremations cost less than full body burials. Cremations are environmentally friendly. Their remains are easily transported by family and friends. And one of the oldest, the funeral director of one of the oldest and biggest funeral home in Tarrant County has stated that their business is now 75% cremations. We did a survey in August of 2010, and we found out, we sent a questionnaire to all 254 Texas counties. We got a 36% return rate. Of those, 41% of the counties offered only cremations, and another 13% were considering dropping burials and offering only cremations. So what could happen? If we go with cremations only, we think we're going to get a 25% reduction in requests because there are those people that are going to still want the burials. So we're thinking 25%. And those would be our projected costs, anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 per fiscal year. It all depends on if our crematories want more money than what they're getting now. So it's a little bit hard to predict. The other thing we want to do is go out for bids and get a single source, and we think that will further reduce our costs. Now, I have got people from the ME's office here, if you have any questions, and Tommy, who coordinates our program, to answer any other questions you may have.
Questions?
I think cremation is the way to go.
Well, again, I mean, what objections would we have to the donation to the medical school?
That too. I mean, does UNT Health Science Center,
It would be the Southwestern Medical School in Dallas.
Why?
Because they have a program. I did contact the UNT program, and they really were not interested.
Okay.
But UNT is not interested?
No, sir, they're not.
what type of transportation costs would we?
We wouldn't have any. The medical school would come, and they would transport the body to their school. If the body was not appropriate, they would cremate them. I am told that only about 20% are accepted.
But again, then there would be certain exceptions where we talked about earlier, where you have someone who could not be cremated or a homicide or an unidentified person. We would still have to.
We could create whatever you all wanted. Yes, we definitely could have exceptions.
Well, the unidentified body is one that there is no exception. You by law,
Right.
you have to bury that body.
Would you give them everybody?
They would, with not the exceptions, and the exceptions even in Dallas are also the unidentified paupers and the veterans.
I mean, everyone that's eligible, but my question is, you said that when they take a body, there's a number of them that they don't accept, that are not, doesn't meet the
Because they're
criteria.
deceased or because they're children, they don't take
But
children.
they're cremating them and charging $300.
Yes.
That's cheaper than we're paying.
That's a lot cheaper than what we're paying.
Give them all of them.
Uh-huh. But is that what we want to do? Is that what our families want?
This is not purely a matter of economics.
You got to think
It's
of
a matter of
the
respect.
culture and respect, the dignity.
Absolutely. If we're going to donate the bodies to the medical school, don't we have to go through an approval process? And that's the first thing we need. Who make that decision?
If you all would make that decision, if that's what you want us to do with a few exceptions, you all would make the decision because Texas law gives you the right to dispose of the body
I
by
understand
donating
that,
to a
but if we
medical
have-
school.
Let's say we give the option of either donating the body to the medical school or cremation. And if the family member says that he or she wants the body to be cremated instead of donated, do they have that choice?
We could design it that way where they would have that choice.
They would have that choice.
I
They
think
would have that
I mean,
choice.
and I don't have, again, I wished I had a better idea of whether or not people, by the numbers, it appears as though people may be abusing our, and forcing us to pay for something which they could afford to pay for themselves.
We think they are.
And so if we said, okay, this is it, then a number of those folks might then turn and say, okay, well, then under that situation, maybe I can find the money.
That's what happens.
Right, but my personal opinion is I understand the economics of it, and I understand that there are individuals out there who may or have abused the system. But then also, I think we have an obligation to preserve certain dignity.
Yes, sir.
Because we are a civil society.
And that's
how
why-
we treat our weakest will determine the dignity of our nation and our
That's why
county.
we're recommending cremations with the exceptions. The bodies will still be treated like with dignity like they are now and with respect. Although I am told when they are donated to the medical school, they are treated with respect, and the families get letters from the medical school telling them what kind of research their loved one is contributing to.
I think what Mary Lou is saying is that, except for those various exceptions that she's mentioned, that the Commissioners Court can craft a policy that can deal with strictly cremations, donations to the medical school and cremations, the continuation of full body burial. You have that authority to do that. And so one of the reasons why we're bringing this presentation to you is because we're not asking for action today. We're asking for some guidance. We've already developed a new burial policy, one that'll have to come back to the Commissioners Court for approval. And we would like to fashion it with the thoughts that you give us today.
You know, I might like to hear more, kind of as we've gone through this process, the donation to the medical schools. You know, I think that's critical because that's what train our doctors as they're running and they're coming forward. So without that, I think, that presents a problem for them. I think they do. I would, possibly be interested, if the rest of the court would be, and letting them come to us and explain, okay, we do respect, and what do we do in those instances.
I have someone who would be willing to come and talk to you.
I like that option, and then I would go from the cremation. I think we do have to look at it from a perspective of, again, we want to show respect, but it is taxpayer dollars that we're looking at, and I think we need to be mindful of that in the decisions that we make. And I see the donation to the medical school as being something that kind of covers both of those fronts and really helps the medical students as they progress in their careers.
I can see that point of view. I can also see the point of view of those who would say that donation to medical schools would fall entirely upon the poor, and that there should not be any penalty for being poor. There ought to be some option.
I will make a point is that we have had several families in Dallas who object to donations, and they call us and they tell us that their loved one was actually a Tarrant County resident that died just visiting them in Dallas County. And we don't accept that unless they have verification that that person was actually a Tarrant County resident.
I think that there's various options that we can provide you, understanding that the issue of engaging the medical schools would be one option. Cremation would be another one, and that might be something that you would simply ask the family. Would they, there's a lot of people that would donate the remains to a medical school, and some simply may not want to do that.
Is there a nonprofit organization out there that handles burials in such extreme situations like this?
No, sir.
None?
No, we are the only ones. Sometimes we can get a church, and of course there's the veterans that the federal government pays for that, but we are the only ones. Do you all want me to arrange to have someone from the medical school come and talk to you all?
Does anyone else have that desire? I mean, I support that option, but that's...
I could support it if it was an option.
Was an
but
option.
Not if it was the default.
But the family members would have to approve that option, right?
Right.
Yes, sir, but here's another thing that we would need to find out. If it is an option, will the medical school be willing to take our bodies and charge us the $300? Or are they looking at getting everybody, not just some bodies?
So in Dallas, they get everyone, and
Yes,
then
sir.
everyone that's not precluded by law, they get. And then from there, it goes forward to cremation if they do not accept the body.
So let us, if I could make a recommendation, let us go ahead. I think we're hearing some gelling of opinions here. Let us go ahead and do some minor modifications to our proposed policy. At the same time, we're going to check with the medical schools to see some of the questions that you ask as far as, do they have to take them all, or do they, can only those that are donated by the family, something like that?
I'd also like a little bit clearer understanding of exactly what our restrictions are from ascertaining whether or not the deceased had any assets at the time that occurred. I hear you saying we cannot ask about any financial information with regards to the family, but I would like to know, where were they living? Were there any insurance policies? And what ability do we have to basically investigate and know that before we just accept that responsibility?
We've begun to look at that, and it's, there's an issue of estates that we also have to deal with, but
An issue of what?
Estates of the
Estates.
of the deceased. And which means it would go to probate possibly. And we've been talking with probate about.
But most of these folks, I wouldn't think would have anything near the size of the estate, and therefore it may never touch the probate court.
Possibly.
As-
Do some more research on it.
As Tommy said, our funeral directors do investigate, because if there's any resources, they'd rather get it from the estate, from the family, because they're going to get paid more than what the county's going to pay.
I hear you saying that, and I understand, but I'm also looking at it from sitting over there saying, okay, we've got to investigate, and if there's anything, it's probably not going to be cash in the bank, so it means we're going to have to seize something. We're going to have to go through, we're going to have to get an attorney involved, we're going to have to seize something, we're then going to have to sell that. It's a whole lot easier if we can get the money from the county, because we know the county's good for it, and we know the county's going to write a check. So I'm not sure I see a whole lot of incentive on the funeral homes side for the extra maybe $2,400 or $2,000 that they might get from the individual than versus what they're going to get from the county.
Is there a law against investigating? You say we cannot investigate.
I'm
Why can't
saying we cannot seize any property, is what I'm saying.
I'm
I
not
don't
asking
know.
about that.
We've never investigated. We've always done what Tommy said, where the funeral director.
She said they don't have the staff.
But yeah.
Okay, so it's not illegal because the funeral homes can do it.
We
I would assume
probably
you can.
could. We'd have to get the staff, and we'd have to figure out how to do it.
I'm not suggesting we do that. I'm just asking a question. You said we can't.
I would have to get advice from the DA's office on that one.
We need to do a little more research on that element, and we will bring you an answer back.
Include a cost-benefit analysis of what it would cost us to do all this investigating, as opposed to what it might save us if we do it.
And there may be an additional option that we might be bringing to the court probably within this next fiscal year as we go into the budget process, where we're engaging the probate courts and a probate court administrator, that we can charge a fee on some of those. We may be able to couple different resources together and come up with a solution to that.
Okay.
And the other thing we look at is these bodies need to be buried or cremated quickly. They're not embalmed, they're refrigerated. How long would an investigation
Well,
take?
Deanna, let us take this back. I think our purpose today was simply to bring you this presentation because we believe that it's important that the court addresses the burial process and our policy. We've heard what the court said. Now we're going to take this back. We're going to come back with a refined process for you all to consider. Okay?
Fine.
Thank you.
Very good.
All right.
Finally, members of the court, we do have two quick updates from Public Health. Dr. Curian is going to talk about the first one. Dr. Curian.
Morning, Judge Whitley and the Commissioners.
Good morning.
My update is going to be very brief. Last week, we had our first West Nile virus positive mosquito sample, which was detected here in the North Texas region. Well, it was the first sample for the state of Texas. The sample was from Cedar Hills in Dallas County. And this is
So
not
we haven't had our first.
We haven't had. The first sample was
Thank you.
detected in Cedar Hills, Dallas County. And this is not unusual. Dallas County typically we tend to see earlier samples positive in Dallas County, and they tend to have greater number of samples positive throughout the season. Historically, here in Tarrant County, we begin to see positive samples starting the month of June. Last year, our first positive sample was in the last week of June. Since the beginning of the seasonal surveillance, which was on April 1st this year here in Tarrant County, Public Health has tested 204 samples, mosquito samples, none tested positive for West Nile. So as stated in past briefings, we will recommend spraying only in response to a positive mosquito sample. So in the absence of a positive mosquito sample here in our jurisdiction, our response activities currently are mainly focused on source reduction, which means eliminating the breeding sites, larviciding, which is killing of the mosquito larvae and the pupae, and promoting use of personal protective measures. Now, with the recent warm weathers approaching, or warmer weathers approaching fast, and the precipitation in our jurisdiction being just sufficient enough to cause pools of standing water that could potentially act as breeding sites, we will continue to maintain vigilance with regards to our mosquito surveillance, and we will continue laying greater emphasis on the use of personal protective measures, not just the use, but use these measures consistently throughout the season here. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, Dr. Kirian was talking about an issue that we hope doesn't really become an issue. I'm here to talk to you about one that I'm hoping is going away, and that is influenza. The last time we were here, we talked about the peak occurring for our annual influenza epidemic back in the first part of January into December. Compared to last year, we were following the same trend. This year, we're still not down to what we call baseline. We're still seeing influenza. And the reason I'm here this morning is last week on the news, you may have heard about how some states in the Northeast and Texas were still experiencing from influenza, in particular influenza B. We've had influenza B here in Tarrant County. It's not the type of influenza that causes the big epidemic every year, but we do see it every year. And our influenza A, which causes the epidemic, occurred in January, was pretty well gone by mid-February. That's when influenza B came on. And we saw an increase, and our surveillance shows influenza still occurring. It is on its way down. So I just want to kind of give you that heads up. We're still seeing it around the county. The flu that we're seeing, the influenza B, we haven't had characterized recently by the CDC lab to see which one it is. But anyways, we expect that to be coming down very soon. In fact, I expect our coming report to show that we're down around baseline for last week. So that's it for influenza.
Any questions?
Thank you
very much. Thank you. No closed.
No close.
Then we are adjourned.